Hello everyone, today we are diving into the single most overlooked yet lethal system that turned China's first great unified empire into a collapsed regime. In a mere 15 years, the Qin dynasty's tax and conscription system. This is not a story of simple cruelty. It is a masterclass in how a state built for endless war destroyed itself by imposing impossible financial and physical burdens on its people. We will dissect 4 non-negotiable obligations that defined life and death for every Qin commoner: land rent, poll tax, corvée, labor, and military service. Let us start with the foundation of Qin's fiscal power: land rent. Long before unification, Shan Yang's reforms abolished the old well-field system and tied every family to state-allocated land. Under Qin law, every household was granted roughly 100 mu of land, and rent was collected based on this allocation, whether the land was fully cultivated or not. This rule, written clearly in the Tianlil field law, meant even families with poor soil, natural disasters, or insufficient labor still had to pay the full amount. The official rate was nominally 1/10 of the harvest, a standard called shi yi shui. But official rates masked a far crueler reality. Contemporary records, including comments by Dong Zhuangshu, state that the Qin state collected tai ban jifu, more than 2/3 of a farmer's total harvest. To put this in perspective, later, Western Han emperors lowered land tax to 1/30 of the harvest to restore stability. Qin's demand was nearly 20 times heavier. Land rent was not paid just in grain. Farmers also had to submit chu hay and gao straw as supplementary taxes. For every 100 mu of land, a family owed 3 shi of hay and 2 shi of straw, with 1 shi equaling about 120 jin in Qin measurements. These materials fed imperial horses, built military fortifications, and supplied massive state projects. Farmers were left with barely enough to survive, even in good years. Droughts, floods, or locust plagues often meant complete ruin, as local officials feared punishment from the central government and rarely granted tax waivers. Next came poll tax, known as kufu, the most regressive and universally hated levy in Qin governance. Unlike land rent, this tax was not based on wealth or output. It was a fixed charge on every living person. The Qin state used strict household registration to enforce this, going so far as to mandate that families with 2 or more adult sons split up to avoid tax evasion. Those who refused paid double the tax. Poll tax had 2 tiers. Children aged 7 to 14 paid a small fixed amount, while adults aged 15 to 60 paid a much heavier sum in copper coins. This tax hit poor families hardest. A wealthy landowner could easily afford the charge, but a peasant family with 5 members might spend half their remaining grain income just to pay the head tax. The state used this steady stream of coin to fund official salaries, military supplies, and the daily operations of a sprawling bureaucracy. The Jinbu lelv, currency, and cloth law standardized payment methods and punished anyone who tried to hide family members to reduce tax. Historians estimate that combined land, rent, and poll tax took up 70 to 80% of an average peasant's total annual production. Men farmed until their hands bled. Women wove day and night. Yet, as the Book of Han records, men who toil in the fields cannot get enough grain. Women who weave cannot get enough clothing. This was not poverty by chance. It was poverty by design. The third pillar of oppression was corvée, labor unpaid, forced work that dominated the lives of Qin commoners. Corvée was not occasional. It was a lifelong legal duty, starting at the age of 15, according to Qin. Bamboo slips, unearthed in Hunan and Hubei. This system had 3 layers. First, gengzu, monthly local labor, repairing roads, building irrigation, or working for local officials. Second, zhengzu, 1 year of service in the capital, or major commanderies serving in palace guard units, or constructing government buildings. Third, shuzu, 1 year of frontier garrison duty, building walls, digging trenches, or guarding borders against nomadic tribes. The total corvée burden was described as 30 times heavier than ancient times. The Qin state launched mega-projects, one after another: the Great Wall, imperial highways, Yipang Palace, and the massive mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang. Each project demanded hundreds of thousands of laborers. Records show that more than 700,000 people worked on the emperor's tomb alone. With a total population of roughly 20 million, more than 2 million men, 1 in 10 citizens were away from home performing corvée at any given time. Farms were abandoned, children grew up without fathers. Wives struggled to feed families alone. Many laborers died from exhaustion, exposure, or disease. The state did not compensate families for deaths or injuries. Corvée turned entire regions into ghost towns, destroying the agricultural base that kept the empire alive. Finally, military service, which was inseparable from corvée, and formed the final chain of exploitation. Qin's entire society was built around the farming and warfare system that had conquered 6 rival states. Military duty was mandatory for all able-bodied men aged 15 to 60. Men fought in endless campaigns, north against the Xiongnu, south to conquer the Baiyu regions and to suppress local uprisings. Soldiers received minimal supplies and had to bring some of their own food and equipment. Discipline was brutal. The Qin laws imposed the death penalty for desertion, disobedience, or even arriving late. The most infamous rule was that shi qi dangzhan, missing a deadline, meant execution. This single law would ignite the rebellion that ended the dynasty. In 209 BCE, 900 conscripts, led by Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, were delayed by heavy rain on their way to a garrison. Realizing death was certain, regardless, they chose to revolt. Their cry, "Are kings and nobles born by nature?" spread like wildfire. Farmers, escaped laborers, and disgruntled soldiers joined in droves. The Qin army, stretched thin by endless wars and garrison duty, could not contain the uprising. What began as a small group of desperate men became a national revolution that toppled the first emperor's dynasty in months. What makes this system so historically significant is that it was not chaos, it was intentional. The Qin state designed a fiscal and labor machine to maximize control and resource extraction. It unified China with brutal efficiency, then used that unity to squeeze every drop of wealth and labor from its people. The empire won unification through war, but it could not survive peace because it never stopped acting like a nation at war. Land rent destroyed farming incomes. Poll tax crushed poor families. Corvée labor broke communities. Military service turned desperation into open rebellion. Together, these 4 obligations created a feedback loop of suffering that no amount of legal terror could suppress. Many people remember Qin Shi Huang as the unifier of China, the builder of the Great Wall, and the creator of a centralized empire that shaped 2,000 years of Chinese history. But his legacy is inseparable from the fiscal system that killed his dynasty. The Qin did not fall because it was weak. It fell because it was too greedy, too rigid, and too blind to the limits of human endurance. Its tax and conscription laws are a warning to all governments. A state that devours its own people cannot stand. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient China, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history. See you next time.